You can call it an annual rite of spring. Since the 1970s, the month of April has become synonymous with celebrations worldwide, raising awareness about our fragile planet. On the program today, a look at Earth Day and how one Kentucky university is heeding the call to Mother Nature. And later in the program, if it's springtime in South Central Kentucky, guess what? That means it's time for the annual Southern Kentucky Festival of Books, as this area of the country prepares to welcome over 150 authors. Outlook is next. Hello and welcome to Outlook. I'm Barbara Deeb. Well, it was in the 1970s that a modern environmental movement known as Earth Day was born. Well, since that time, numerous festivals and awareness campaigns have been born as well. Here in Bowling Green, the WKU campus is at the forefront of the green movement and sustainability, thanks in large part, if I can say it, to the coordinator of sustainability at WKU, Christian Ryan, is joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That word just wasn't going to come out. When we talk about sustainability, we hear that term a lot. We talk about Earth Day. We talk about something called a carbon footprint. Help us understand, help our viewers understand what we mean when we say those words.
So sustainability, it is often hard, doesn't roll off the tongue. I always say it's not easy to pronounce, but it's easy to practice.
Okay,
so
good.
Sustainability is all about being mindful of your choices and behaviors and how they affect the planet and other folks on the planet. And so, and not just people, but also all species. Mm-hmm. When we talk about carbon footprint, and I'm so glad that you asked about that because people call me, I'm known as a carbon nerd. I love
You're seeing it here, a carbon nerd. Okay, which is really a compliment.
Carbon nerd.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
So your carbon footprint is resultant from any activities or behaviors that you practice that have to do with the use of fossil fuels, and that's pretty much everything we do in life. So our food choices can be connected to fossil fuels, and in the agricultural practices and the transportation. Our daily commute to and from work is associated with the combustion of fossil fuels. The energy or electricity that we use when we turn the lights on and off, of course, associated with the burning of fossil fuels. In Kentucky, much of our electricity is generated by coal-fired power plants, and so all of these things combined contribute to your carbon footprint. And at WKU, part of my work is to determine our university's carbon footprint.
Ah, that's a big footprint. It's a much larger foot, so to speak. Yeah.
It's a pretty complicated footprint. But I think it's fascinating, and it's immensely helpful to look at the activities and operations of our university and think of them in terms of carbon emissions. The greenhouse gas emissions that are associated with how much electricity that we use in a given time, or how much natural gas we burn when we heat our campus in the wintertime. And understanding your carbon footprint just really helps you make better decisions and choices regarding your daily action.
And it's one of those things, it's very simply awareness.
Yeah.
Just even being aware that you might, if I did it this way, I could help the planet. I could make a difference, right?
Yeah. Oh yes, and like I say, sustainability is pretty easy to practice. A lot of times it's, I'll just be quite honest, people associate sustainability with making sacrifice, and I always love to tell people about, and to me, sustainability is about improving your quality of life. And so one of my biggest tips that I give to people for improving their carbon footprint and being more sustainable is to buy local, and particularly to buy local food. And I think that most of us that shop at our farmers markets, and we have amazing farmers markets in Bowling Green.
We do. We're going to tell you about those, yes.
It's a complete joy to go and shop at your farmer's market. Going to the grocery store is not all that pleasurable.
No. But the farmer's market, You know what I love about the farmers market? Not only do you get these amazing products, but the sense, really, it sounds cliche, but the sense of community that you experience.
Exactly.
I just I can't describe it in words. It's really, really something special.
Community is a perfect word. I mean, going to the farmers market is somewhat of a social event, right? I mean, you talk with your farmers and you talk about how I love to talk to my heirloom tomato farmer because the way he describes his tomatoes, and they're all interesting, and they have great names, and so it's really fun. That's so much more fun.
And a learning experience too.
Yeah,
and definitely.
And you see people that you know, and you say good morning, and it's a pleasurable
experience, and no kidding. Let's inform our viewers about the local farmers markets where they can actually gain access to that, because it is very accessible.
It's so accessible. Our local food system in Bowling Green is remarkable. It really is. And in fact, folks across the country are taking notice of what's going on with Bowling Green's local food system and how we're making these really collaborative improvements. And so, of course, I have to mention the community farmers market first, because that's the market that WKU partners with very collaboratively. We've written grants together to improve local food access, and so the adorable mobile market bus that you can't help but notice.
You can see it right there on 31W, right?
That's a result of a partnership between the WKU Office of Sustainability and the Community Farmers Market, writing a USDA grant and just having a dream, like, let's do a mobile market, and we're going to write this grant and just go for it and see if it happens. And it did happen. And but one of the other great ways that WKU is partnering with this Community Farmers Market is, well, first of all, we were able to give them space to operate, and so they have a market. They have space year-round. So a lot of the farmers have been able to go from part-time farming to full-time farming because they have some place to have their stuff, through the winter months. And so now they're building high tunnels because they can sell spinach all winter long. And how wonderful is it that we can get local fresh spinach in December?
All
that's
year
quality
long.
of life, right?
Yes, it is.
So we were fortunate in that we had some space that we could
And it's
give
near
them.
the south campus of the
Yeah.
university, for those of you that are not familiar with that.
Yeah, and
space.
right next to the WKU store on Nashville Road. So it kind of all worked out just really well. But the thing I'm most excited about is that they're able to take Big Red Dollars. And so our students can spend their Big Red Dollars at the Community Farmers Market. And perhaps the best part about it is that those dollars are doubled. So through private donations that the Community Farmers Market folks, hasn't had anything to do with me, that they've been able to obtain from just local businesses and individuals that really support what they do, for every dollar that our Big Red Dollars that our students spend, they actually get $2 worth of local food.
Who knew? So this farm to campus, is that somehow related to all of this?
It is very related. So the Farm to Campus program is a Kentucky Department of Agriculture program, and it's meant to encourage our colleges and universities to source local and particularly Kentucky Proud products. And most of our local farmers are Kentucky Proud members, and it's not a difficult thing if you're a local farmer, you can get Kentucky Proud membership. It doesn't cost anything. And so we just became a Farm to Campus member, and there's no sort of mandate or anything like that. It's just really to encourage us to source locally. This is something that we've already been doing, and part of the reason is because we've been able to build relationships with our local farmers. And so, I have, by going to the Community Farmers Market and supporting them, I've built these relationships with local farmers that then come to me and say, well, we would love to have our product on campus. How could that work?
Oh, okay.
And from there, I work with WKU Dining Services. They're amazing and so supportive and want to do this. And we go out and do farm visits. So our dining services director, Steve Hoying, will go and visit a farm that we're going to potentially source from. And we love to do farm visits, obviously. That's really fun.
Yeah.
And so then we work to get them set up as an approved Airmark vendor, which is not an easy thing to do. It's a challenging process. but our farmers really want to be on campus, and they're willing to work through all the paperwork.
What a great opportunity to combine and marry those two things. So that's the Farm to Campus initiative. Also, WKU has received a designation as a climate-ready campus. I'm climate-ready.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
How cool does that sound?
Yeah.
So actually, it's our own designation, and I may be sharing our secret right now. Let's see. Last summer, we did a study abroad program called the Toppers at Sea Climate Change Challenge. And it was an abbreviated sort of semester at sea experience. We sailed for 3 weeks around the North Atlantic, and we just visited various countries and learned about their sustainability, their ideas about sustainability and climate change, and the way that they're mitigating and preparing for climate change. And I think and it was interdisciplinary. We had students from various disciplines on the ship. Dr. Ransdell went with us, and Julie Ransdell came along, and we just had the best time, and we learned so much. And I think our number one takeaway was that climate change is only a debate in the United States. Everywhere we visited, they're not talking about the whys and if it's even happening. They're talking about how are we going to become more resilient in the face of these changes that are coming. So we all just came home incredibly inspired, and Dr. Ransdell appointed a climate action committee, and we are working to prepare WKU as a climate-ready campus, and that's our own designation, and we just love the sound of that. It's very action-oriented, and so we've been working on looking at our carbon footprint and developing mitigation strategies. Like, so, you know, what are all these things that we can do to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and become more resilient as a university?
So on the cutting edge, being
Aren't we?
proactive. I know, I love that. We're just about out of time for this segment. Christian Ryan, as the Sustainability Coordinator at WKU, leave our audience with some words of wisdom and how really one person can make a difference. You're a link in that chain.
Oh, 100% yes. One person can make a difference. And again, I would just say, you know, their sustainability is not a sacrifice. It's about improving your quality of life, maybe making things a little bit more simple. And so, you know, there's a million things that you can do to lead a more sustainable lifestyle. You pick those things that work for you. If you are into riding your bike, ride it more often, you know, use it for work every day. If you're not, that's not going to be your thing to reduce your carbon footprint. You know, if you're into food, like I am, you know, start sourcing more local. You know, there's so simple as turning off the light and unplugging your cell phone when you're not charging.
It's
like
really
that
tiny
things.
simple.
Yes.
It
and
really
they
is.
absolutely make a difference.
Thank you, and you are making a difference. We've been
Thank
talking
you.
with Christian Ryan, who is the Sustainability Coordinator at WKU, about how you can make a difference. And when we come back, we're going to learn how 150, actually more than 150 authors are headed this way as part of the Southern Kentucky Book Fest. Outlook continues. Stay with us. Outlook continues. It's a reader's paradise as more than 150 authors and illustrators descend on the Carol Nicely Center in Bowling Green the weekend of April 17th and 18th. It's an ode to literacy is what I call it. And joining us to tell us more about that and who some of the featured artists are going to be, I call them artists. They're authors. They are artists. Christy Lowry joins us. And Christy has a lot of titles. For purposes of our discussion today, she is the coordinator of the Southern Kentucky Book Fest. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
In addition, we are joined by Ashley Folks, who is with the Warren County Public Library. And so the reason that the two of you are here, Jen Bailey couldn't join us. We'll get her later. She's with Barnes & Noble. This is a collaborative effort.
It
and
is.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm not sure how it all started. The Book Fest has been around for 17 years, and I think that for at least 15 of those, it's been a collaboration between WKU Libraries, Warren County Public Library, and Barnes & Noble. So we each have our roles to fill. I'm the main coordinator. That's my primary job, but we couldn't do it without the partnership that is developed. And the public library takes care of Children's Day, and Barnes & Noble, of course, takes care of all the book orders, the setup, and then the sales on the day of the event.
And it's an event. Let me just tell you, if you haven't been there before, I think it would be safe to say that most major cities host some type of authors book fest.
It seems like it.
A growing number.
It's very popular to do. Even Washington, D.C. has its own book festival, and so there are a lot of models to follow, but we've really developed our own, and I think really honed in on what people locally like, and we've really become an attraction for the region, so we're really happy about what this collaboration has led to.
Well, and while we're talking about this collaboration, of course you want to know who some of the authors are going to be. So this year you have a big headliner, because you were lamenting how, you know, the fans are already contacting you and have been for months. Tell us who that's going to be.
They are very excited about Diana Gabaldon coming. She is the author of the Outlander series, and of course last year was the first season of the Starz Network Outlander program, which is actually very good. I watched it in one sitting, the first season.
It was homework, right? You were doing your research.
Exactly. That's, that's how I roll. But she has fans who are coming from across the nation to see her at our event. Ours is free, and I think that's unique. So people, first come, first served. If they can get to the Nicely Center in time to snag a seat, they can see her for free.
Wow, let's talk Book Fest. April 17th and 18th at the Carol Nicely Center in Bowling Green, which is located on 31W. It's near the South Campus. It is on the South Campus of Western Kentucky University. And we'll put up a web address where you can get more information. But you come to the Book Fest. Now, we're experienced book festers. We know what to expect, but someone tuning in might not know what to expect when they get there. So they show up on Saturday, and what?
Well, when they come on Saturday, we'll give them a full schedule of events. Now, by that time, it's halfway over, because Friday is all of the children's and young adult authors. On Saturday, children, young adult authors, and adult authors.
Okay.
If you go to the main room, it's row after row after row of tables with books with the authors or illustrators behind them. We have panel presentations throughout the day, and we have children's activities going on in the lobby as well on Saturday. Friday, almost 1,000 children will descend, plus all of their chaperones and anybody else who wants to drop in, but that's who's signed up already for Friday. If they bring their money, they can purchase a book and have it autographed. Listening to them and their presentations is just such a treat for all ages. And again, we talked about it being free. You can just come and attend. You don't have to purchase a book. But what a wonderful treasure to take home with that signature in it. And you know, you've met the author, you've met the illustrator. You take it home, you read it at night, you say, he likes me. Look, you wrote a little note to me in the book.
He wrote a note to me. And you know, you're making me cry. I remember getting my first book in kindergarten, purchasing my very own book, but to be able to purchase it and then have the person who wrote it or illustrated it sign it, that's huge.
And sometimes doodle in it.
Oh, love it. So that's on Friday. That's on Friday for the children's authors in particular. Now, would you advise community people to come by on Friday as well?
Oh, definitely, definitely. There'll be room. We're in 3 big rooms, and there's a lot of activities that if you're an adult reader, if you have children in your life or you just like to read great literature, you know, we're going to have a lot of award-winning authors there.
Well, let's talk more about some of those award-winning authors. We talked about Diana Gabaldon, the author of the Outlander series. She is the headliner, but there are so many others. You said
we have a good
more than
lineup this year.
150.
Yes. Terry Brooks, who's the author of the Shannara series, which MTV is going to make a TV show based on that. And he also wrote the Landover novels, and there's going to be a movie coming out based on those. He was the first in the fantasy genre to be on the New York Times bestseller list back in the 70s. And he's near and dear to my heart because he's the first fantasy author I read when I was younger. So I'm very excited to meet him. And he seems like a really nice guy.
You know, and that's the thing, to be true. We've been doing these for many years, these book festivals. And WKU-PBS sets up and we do a series of television shows outside the book where we talk with the authors. And they are, in general, really nice people. Because for all intents and purposes, they spend a lot of time alone. So I think they appreciate when they can actually see people responding to their work.
Right, and we've made a lot of friends over the years. We have authors who come back every year just because they like hanging out with Ashley and me, I think.
Who's one of those perpetual?
Oh, Mark Wayne Adams. I bet
Adams.
a lot of the people in this area know Mark Wayne Adams. He visits a lot of the schools, and he's just a great guy, and we love having him come back. And he's he's an illustrator as well as an author, and he will sell you a sketchbook, and he will do the first drawing in the sketchbook, and then he'll give it to a kid and say, I'll be back next year, and I want to see what you've done in that time.
Smart.
Yes.
And that's how he got started. That's his story. He just, I think it was a grandmother or an aunt gave him a book, and said and he just started drawing. Yes. Now, I am always intrigued to learn from the authors that we talk to at the book festival that if you write a book, you don't always get to select the illustrator that you want to illustrate your book, which I found really? But that's not how it works.
No, and they don't get to choose the cover either. It's always exciting for the author, I think, to see
what's the cover
yes,
going to
what's it gonna
look
look like.
Or exciting or scary, right?
It could be a little
no.
scary. There's
Now-
some really cool book covers out there
There
nowadays,
really are.
though.
And in general, that's what, I think often attracts someone to a particular book. If the cover is intriguing enough, it will get them there.
And we have had people who met the illustrator of their book when they wrote it at our book festival before. So that's a great place for
no.
them to come and make connections. We've even had agents come and talk to the people that they've only spoken with over email on the phone. So it's a networking opportunity for readers, for the community, and for the authors and illustrators too. So that's really fun to watch.
I love that. Now, there were people, those bad people who said that books were dead, that they are dying. To them, we say,
They're morphing. The industry is changing. E-books are definitely coming to the forefront, but the best thing about this book festival is getting to talk to the people who actually get it out there on the paper. And they're excited if their content gets distributed no matter what. It's still a book, but it started off in that paper that you can turn the page, and especially with children's books, the illustrations cannot be replaced by pixels on a screen no matter what. You can't flip pages on a bedtime story. So it's really wonderful to be able to get in touch with the traditional book, which will always be around, and it will change a little bit over time, I think, but I think we'll always have books among us.
thank goodness, there's something about that feeling, that texture, yes.
Oh, yes.
Now, how is it that one decides, or, we talked about the collaborative effort for the Southern Kentucky Book Fest. In other words, we've got the libraries, we've got the university, we've got Barnes & Noble, we've got the community. How do they decide who's going to be here as the authors at the Book Fest?
We meet regularly, the members of the partnership do, and of course Warren County Public Library knows what people in our area, what they're checking out at their library, so they can...
That's a good point. So we know then that this is a very popular series we
Exactly.
might want to think about getting, okay.
Right.
And
We have a
Barnes &
feeder.
Noble knows what sells,
Exactly.
so I constantly am checking with both of them to say, what about this author? And then they give me feedback, and we go from there.
And sometimes our library events have, our conferences have authors present, and there's really something to be said about an author who knows how to present in a very entertaining way as opposed to in a very dry, I'm going to sit here way. So that's kind of nice as well to be able to make that recommendation, and Barnes & Noble has their finger on the pulse of sales, so it's really perfect. And Christy's a reader too, so she has lots of people who she draws from, her kids and her friends as well. So we come from a lot of different angles, but are able to pull it all together in a really a great way, a real strong way.
And, easier said than done to be able to say, oh, we'd love to get so-and-so. That doesn't always happen though, right?
No, I'm still waiting to hear from Stephen King about 2016. I say, I'm sure
Stephen King, if you're out
right.
there.
I'm sure he spends a lot of time just pinching himself from the excitement of receiving an invitation from me. He actually doesn't do very many book festivals anymore, but I write to him every year just in case.
And we
'Cause you
worked
never
on
know.
some, and we've gotten them over time. So
Right.
there have been a few people we've waited
Diana
for.
Gabaldon is
few
definitely an
years.
example of that. I've
Oh, really?
invited her every year for the past 4 or 5. Charlene Harris last year, we asked every year for a few years before it finally worked out. They schedule far in advance. So I have the dates set through, I think, 2019. So
And so you just keep plugging away. And there is, when you think about over 150 authors, think about that for just a moment, and then getting them all here, getting them all taken care of, and making sure that they show up at the Nicely Center on April 17th and 18th, that's a lot of coordinating.
it is. It's fun though, and I have my spreadsheets, my beautiful spreadsheets.
Which you probably couldn't function without.
No, I couldn't.
Yes. But so what are some of the logistical issues that you have to put, I mean, other than making sure they get where they're supposed to be, and you have panel discussions as well.
Right. Every year around, well, by the end of December, I know who is coming. And so I get out one of my spreadsheets and I look at what genre. We try to group them by genre. And then just decide who will go well with somebody else. A lot of these authors we know. I mean, they've come back, or I've corresponded with them over the course of the year, so you can get a sense of who's going to work with whom. It's really kind of fun. And then I plug them in. But we also have to get them from the airport to Bowling Green and then back to the airport again. And everybody's flying in at different times. And then some people have dietary restrictions. It's just, event planning.
One can say a logistical nightmare, but somehow it always comes together, doesn't it? We're seeing a renewed interest, or a new interest, if you will, in the genre young adult. I mean, this is really becoming a quite popular area. Why is that? Is it just this cohort of youngsters at a certain age? What you mean?
I think that it's one of those things that teenagers read young adult fiction because it's written for them, but it's become so sophisticated and so well written that there are many adults that are reading that genre. The Hunger Games really brought that out. It's a page turner, and regardless of whether the character is a teenager or an adult, a good book is a good book. So that series particularly, I think, brought it to the limelight, and now we have a great panel and we have more people attending that this year than we ever have, which is wonderful. And students in high school, junior high even, and adults are interested. So the reading over the list and reading about the stories that they write about, just read the summary and it makes you want to read the book. So it's just become its own very strong genre that is broadly appealing to many different age groups, not just teens.
Just teens.
Definitely. We have, I think, close to 30 young adult authors coming. Some of them are crossover authors, so they have adult books as well as the YA books. Catherine Howe, who wrote the Deliverance Dane book that was a New York Times bestseller, her newest book is a YA book. I just finished it. It's really quite good. Yes.
She's interesting. We love to talk to her. We're just about out of time. The Southern Kentucky Book Fest is headed this way, April 17th and 18th. Give us just a quick synopsis, if you will.
Oh, it truly is a family event. People of all ages will find something at Book Fest that they can do.
There you go. That's simple. You want to leave us with some words of wisdom?
Well, if you want to meet your celebrities, if you're a reader, come. If you want to create some celebrities for your kids, introduce them to some authors and illustrators, and it'll be the best Friday and Saturday you'll ever spend.
You heard it here. That's the Southern Kentucky Book Fest. We're going to put up a website where you can get more information. A special thanks to Christian Ryan, who joined us in the first half of the program, and a special thanks to you for joining us. Until next time, I'm Barbara Deeb. I'll see you at the Book Fest.